struck a Sligo family when 20-year-old Shane Michael Skeffington stabbed his 9-year-old brother Brandon to death before he took his own life. Shane Michael had been released from a psychiatric hospital just 2 months before this incident, and his mother Carmel wants more awareness and education around mental illness, particularly for families in which a member is affected by mental illness. I spoke with Carmel a couple of days ago, and she was on the line with her family solicitor Ciarán Tansey of Damien Tansey Solicitors in Sligo. I started by asking Carmel to tell us about her 2 sons.
They were amazing. They got on so well, and they were just, the light of our lives, really, them and Sharon and Callum. They got on so well together. Shane Michael was the best big brother, the best son. Brandon was fun-loving, lively. He was a right little live wire, always up to mischief. And they got on so well. Like, Shane Michael took such good care of Sharon, Brandon and Callum. Like, he was really good with them.
Now that 2.5 years or so has passed since they died and the inquest has happened, what's your reflection on how sick Shane Michael was and what you knew then compared to what you know now?
I guess at the time we didn't know anything. We didn't understand what was wrong with Shane Michael. We didn't know what to look for. Looking back now, there would have been things we've seen that probably, should have raised warning signs, or but he was obviously a lot sicker than we realised. And when we thought that he came out of hospital, we thought, he was better, but we didn't understand what was really wrong with him. We didn't know how to deal with it. We didn't know what we were looking for. We basically, we were out of our depth. We didn't understand.
And with him, he was 20 years old. He was a young man in the world. Was it that he was missing appointments and not taking medication because he just wanted to get on with it? Or how was he about that, about missing? Was it kind of just leave me alone, I'm getting on with things?
No, he was like, when he came out of there, when he'd been in hospital, he was refusing medication, so he had to be restrained and injected against his will because he wouldn't take it. When he came home, I knew he wasn't going to take the tablets, because he'd been refusing it in the hospital. But he says he didn't need them when he was home, and he said he was fine. And he didn't seem to realise that there was anything wrong. I suppose he himself probably felt that there was nothing wrong with him. And
when Shane Michael took his own and his brother's life, you were doing the most mundane of family things. You were doing a bit of shopping, Families do it every day all over the country. You were out doing a bit of shopping. What do you feel now should have been the approach with the family from the clinicians and from the HSE on a whole? Given that you had a son who was sick, you weren't aware of how sick.
Yeah, we weren't aware of how sick. We didn't know what a psychotic episode or illness was. We didn't know then that it could happen again. We basically didn't know the dangers of, what was wrong with Shane Michael. And we didn't understand. People need to be educated about these things. They need to be told, the risks, what could happen, what to look out for. We were just totally in the dark as to what was wrong. And when he was released home, we thought he was well.
Also with us is Ciarán Tansey of Damien Tansey Solicitors in Sligo. And Ciarán, in the point that Carmel has brought us to, does the HSE, does the health service have a responsibility that it did not carry out in the care of this young man and the protection of his family?
Thanks, Chris. I guess the matter is sub judice at the moment, so I'm somewhat limited in what I can say on that particular point. What I can say is that at the inquest, we set out quite strongly that there were issues in terms of Shane Michael's treatment that we felt, at least, suboptimal and could have been improved on. And clearly the HSE's lawyers on their part refuted that and made their case in the defence. There were various investigations internally within the HSE to try to decide from their perspective whether things could have been improved, and we believe, and I guess it's for a judge to work out whether the findings reached coincide with our findings, and we think items were left undone. Tests were left unchecked, follow-ups weren't done, and treatment wasn't given. And on one interpretation at least, if all of those failings had been avoided, then we might not be having this conversation this afternoon, Chris.
And Ciarán, I can understand from Shane Michael's point of view wanting to get out of hospital and get out of a psychiatric ward, but I suppose where really the focus then comes on is follow-up service. That's right, a patient did want to get out, but what should have happened instead of nothing?
Yeah, I think on one interpretation there was a failing in terms of follow-up. Now, there's I guess a collective responsibility on that front. The HSE and the medical health professionals consist of a whole array of people, from doctors, nurses, follow-up, nurses, community workers, the whole array of people. And there's no one person that carries the blame in any of these, in this case or any other case. But in Ireland, based on what I've seen in this case and in other similar cases, unfortunately, we have on our books here at the firm, a collective failing for one reason or another. People don't work together, or one thing is left out, another is done very well. But the long and the short of it is, it's about the weakest link in all of this. And if the weakest link breaks, then something appalling can happen. And this is a prime example.
Carmel, I know how I and most people around Ireland react when we hear of this happening on the news. Just react with horror, and I'm just aware that this does happen, and it has happened more often to other families. And what do you think when you hear intermittently and unfortunately far too often that there has been another case of murder, suicide, or multiple murder and suicide within families?
My heart goes out to them, because I know exactly what it's like. I know the pain. I know what it feels like. I think people are very quick to judge as well. I wouldn't say, I wouldn't criticise or I wouldn't condemn somebody for any of these other stories like that you would hear, because nobody knows what's going on. I just feel, it would bring me back to over 2 years ago. And just, I understand how the families left behind, or how they feel, and my heart goes out to them.
Your daughter and your youngest son and yourself and your husband, it is a really short time, 2.5 years after what you've gone through. How are you guys coping? How are you getting on?
It's very hard. I mean, it doesn't get any easier. I guess, we might learn to cope a bit better, but the pain and the loss, that doesn't go away, and it never will. I mean, your kids are your life, no matter what you do, the two boys is always missing. They're not there. Ciarán misses them so much. Callum misses them so much, and he was only 2.5 when it happened, and he talks about them. He talks about them a lot and asks questions, and but it's hard. It is hard.
That was Carmel Skeffington speaking to me a couple of days ago alongside Ciarán Tansey on the death of her son Shane Michael and Brandon. We'll be back in a moment. Struck a Sligo family when 20-year-old Shane Michael Skeffington